Welcome to this week's episode of the Evolve to Succeed podcast. Our guest this week is Declan O'Toole. At Evolve, we help businesses start, grow, and exit. And in the course of this conversation with Declan, we're going to really focus on that growth and exit piece of the conversation. Declan built a business over a number of years, successfully won public sector contracts, and then sold the business in July last year. So we're going to have a conversation with him about his journey. I hope you really do enjoy this episode. And if you do, then please do help us by subscribing on your favourite channel. But for now, let's get on with the show. Declan, welcome to the Evolve to Succeed podcast.
Thank you, Aaron.
We're going to, I'm sure, have a great conversation. We've known each other a few years. You've been a member of the peer group. So I've seen your story and your journey along the way. And I'm really excited that you're going to share it today with our listeners, particularly around some of the areas around working within the public sector. But also, I know you had a strong methodology and approach to exit. And I think we'll feature a big part of our conversation on that.
Yep.
But to begin with, we should really kick off with a bit about your background and the story. So the business was Forerunner Catering.
Mm-hmm.
How did that business come about? When did it come about? It was a business you co-founded with your wife. Tell our listeners a bit of the story.
Nearly a business I co-founded with my wife. I bought that business in 2004 as a very small Meals on Wheels company.
Okay.
We'd moved over from New Zealand, where I was a marine biologist by trade. Did you know that?
No.
And so I was in the deep sea fishing industry at a software company in New Zealand, and we were selling the software around the world. And I'd done lots of marine biology, and I'd sort of finished with fish. We had a couple of young kids, and my wife wanted to come to England.
Okay.
So,
and she from New Zealand?
No. She's from London.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had a 4-year-old and 2-year-old, and she wanted to come home, and be with her family, and her friends are having kids and all that sort of thing. And I was sort of done with fish and so on. So we sold my shares of the company. We had some real estate and stuff. We sold all that, and we started from fresh.
Stock and barrel over to the UK.
Yeah, the whole show. And lost so much wealth on the way. It was $3 New Zealand to a pound.
Okay.
And we went from doing really well in New Zealand.
Yeah, comfortable life.
Really, we were doing well. And then I got here, and I was like, oh my God, hang on a minute, I don't have any money.
Yeah.
So it was a really interesting space to find ourselves in.
Yeah.
But what I'd done, I'd taken a year off when we came here. So I'd read this book by a chap called Martin Hawes in New Zealand called Your Money Timeline.
Okay.
And he'd sort of mapped out that basic principle of saving all your life, up until you get into your 60s, and then you retire and that sort of thing. Yeah. And he pointed out that if you stop for a year and don't make contributions and don't save that sort of thing, it doesn't really make a big difference to the end. So we've cashed up. So we came here, and I decided to take a year off. And I asked some friends, what's an accountant earn, what's a lawyer earn, to get sort of ballpark. Put that money aside for the year and said, right, we're not doing anything for you and taking a year off. And that was a really, really good idea. So I could highly recommend that to anybody who's like in their 30s, that sort of thing. So
with two young kids.
It was just reset my relationship with my kids, reset the marriage. Yeah, I finished that year and just went, I'm not interested in corporate life and all that sort of thing. And material ambitions were very much diminished.
So it fundamentally changed you as a human
Fundamentally changed everything.
And that year off in your 30s.
I was in the bath one night with my 2-year-old boy and just went, I don't remember doing this with my girl. So I was like, really, because with the fish, I was traveling around the world a lot. And
so it was a software worldwide.
It was software worldwide and that sort of thing. Very, very small company, selling to maybe 10 companies around the world. Okay. So a lot of cash flow issues. Yeah. So I go from New Zealand to Iceland and close a deal, and then I come back, and 3 months later we still haven't been paid. Yeah. And they're like, I'm ringing them up, and they're going, yeah, sure. And I've got nowhere to go. So I learned my lessons on cash flow there. It's like really hard. So we came here and did that, and I found this little business in Bournemouth. Called Forerunner Catering, a little Meals on Wheels company. Right. And I went for it because the cash flow was fantastic. It was all little old ladies who paid in advance or paid on the day, and I had no 80-20 rules.
Direct-to-consumer business.
Direct-to-consumer, making just small individual meals and delivering them into the old ladies' homes. Okay. Yeah. The reason I liked it was the cash flow was really strong. Okay. or after what I've just been through with cash flow, I just wanted lots of money flowing.
Stuck it
Do you know?
high,
Exactly.
but low transactional value.
Exactly. And it was great. There was like, you had a nice turnover of clients through mortality and going into homes and all that sort of thing. And there was always new people coming on. You know, it was a cracking little business. And so we bought that and started running that and sorted that out and made improvements on that sort of thing. And that was that was really, really good. Just the Meals on Wheels stuff, and then the schools sort of started after that.
So how did you get? Because ultimately it became a school meals provider.
Yeah.
How did you? Can you remember that transition from the business from being Meals on Wheels to school meals? How did that all come about?
So we were called up we were doing about 300 meals a day in Meals on Wheels, and we had like 15 vans going all over Poole, Bournemouth, and Christchurch. It was 7 days a week, you know, and I would always trying to set every business up to be independent of me. So it's always systems and processes, and this is the way you do it, and don't deviate. You know, so people.
And is that a lesson learned through the business in New Zealand?
Yeah, and that was through. Do you know? You've heard of Robert Kiyosaki?
Yeah,
Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that sort of thing. You know, so I was a devotee of him when I was in my early 30s. That's the book that sort of changed my life. Rich Dad Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant was like. I was very much a person. You get on the corporate ladder and bloody and you get a bigger job, that sort of thing. And this guy just turned everything around for me. It was like, I didn't know money worked like that. Do you know? So that was, I was very focused on building a business that was independent of me on its daily operations.
Okay.
You know, so he talks about the cash flow quadrant and the little box of 4 squares, E, S, B, and I.
Yeah.
So you need an employee, you're self-employed, you're a business owner, or you're an investor. Yeah. You know, and you normally go through from employee to self-employed and then business owner and investor. And if you're self-employed, you might own your own business. Yeah. But if that business can't run without you for 3 to 6 months, then all you do is own a job. Yeah. If you own a business, you only own that business, in my opinion. If you can let that business run by itself for 3 to 6 months, you don't need to be there, and it'll be okay. Yeah. That's sort of owning a business. It's an important distinction.
It is, isn't it? And there's a lot of people that don't go from that.
Never make self-employed transition. And lots of people are happy not to make that transition.
But they become lifestyle businesses, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. There's loads of different ways to do it, but it's a bit of an achievement to say, I don't need to go to work today. Yeah. You know, that's you've built something sort of independent of you then. So I was very focused on this business doing that. So we had a nursery ring us up, Kitty's Nursery, saying their chef had walked out or the kitchen had blown up or something like that. And can we provide meals for their kids for a couple of weeks? And we said, yeah, that's fine. We'll do that. We did it for 2 weeks. And she said, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. Can you keep doing this? Okay. And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. This is great, because now I'm gone from dropping off 1 meal. Yeah. My van's going in, it's dropping off 30 meals. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And now it's gone from whatever it was, £4.80 to we're dropping off, I don't know, 60, 70 pounds, whatever it was at the time. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? In one drop. And I was like, this is quite good. So this is like pre-internet. This is 2005, 6. Okay. You know what I mean? So we used the internet, but we got like a list of all the nurseries in Bournemouth, Poole, and Christchurch, and knocked up a mail out. I don't know if anyone who's listening to this remembers what a mail out is like. So we knocked up a brochure and a little letter and put them into envelopes, put the labels on them and dropped them off to the post box, you know. Warren, next morning, 9 o'clock, the phone started ringing. Unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Okay. And within 3 weeks, we had 7 nurseries on board. My chefs lost the plot. Like, it was really, there was some seriously fast growth, and it was like, we really were under the hammer. It was really, really difficult, but we discovered, just got lucky. Okay. Do you know what I mean? Just discovered this thing.
Create your own luck.
Well, 100%. You create your own luck, so we just like, this was great. And then what happened was those kids left nursery and went to school, right? And the parents started complaining about the quality of the food in the schools. So can't you go back to these people who were supplying my nursery, because my kid really liked that food? So we started getting a couple of phone calls from schools. So then we said, well, yeah, sure, we can do that. And so it's like within 18 months, we had 2 schools on board. Okay. And this is like, now we're moving into like 120, 130
so instead of dropping off 1 and then 30, you're dropping off 120.
So now this was a different show. So Then we had to move premises, of course, because we were
I was
too
going to
small.
start saying that they must have came with the challenges of
Mate,
creating capacity and all those things.
So, I mean, like growing a business is really expensive. And with all my cash flow fears, it's just the worst. Because it's just like, I have to spend, £300,000 here. And of course we were small, and I'd lost so much wealth coming from New Zealand. We put everything into the purchase of the business, and then still needed a bank loan, So we had to go back to the banks and say this and that. And in those days, like the banks had a manager who came round and spoke to you.
And actually started to believe in you.
And all that sort of stuff, So we managed to arrange the finance. We moved. That was really, really difficult as well. That's just a super stressy thing. And we're a 7-day-a-week show, so we need to get from one kitchen into the next one. And of course, we're really tight for cash, so I'm doing everything as tight as possible.
There's no turn up.
No, there's no like we're just going to not do this for a week. So that was really bad.
And I think it's this thing we all forget, and particularly people that start a business, you start to think that growth's linear, but it's not.
No,
is it? It's staircases. And each step can get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Exactly.
And you're just finding that out.
And we're just finding that out. So what the massive lesson I got from that was, you're absolutely correct. It's that step process of scaling, and the trick is get the scaling, get ready for the next bit of growth before the growth comes. Do you know what I mean? Have faith in yourself that you're going to be able to deliver that growth, but build your business enough so it can deal with that, and you can stretch that next step before you go to the step after that.
Correct.
So you know what I mean? You go from 250K to 500K, then you go from 500K to $1 million, and then your next step is 2 million turnover and that sort of thing. And those sort of steps, it's much easier. Hot tip, to build some capacity in before you make that step.
I've always believed in that, and it does work, but it does take that leap of
you need some balls sometimes.
You because you go from,
I'm sure I
can see it in my personal journey. I can even see it with what we're doing involved. You go to actually we're profitable, we're making money, and then you're
why am I doing
overhead, and then you're like, okay, and then you go again and you invest in the overhead, premises, people, all that thing, and you go, okay, now we need to grow again.
And then the cash flow stuff kicks in because suddenly you're running out of money. Do you know what I mean? Or suddenly, like you've got all these extra overheads in bigger rent, often wages, and that sort of thing. But your growth hasn't quite reached there, and it's tight, and you have those 3 o'clock in the morning. It's like, oh my god,
it's all going to be okay. But and for somebody even listening to you speak now that seeks probably control, system, process, organization, that must be a really weird feeling, because in that period of time, you're not in control.
No.
Systems and processes probably are still trying to catch up.
Yep.
How did that feel, and how did you overcome those feelings of uncertainty?
You just, a long time ago now. It's just, that's part of just growing a business, isn't it? And being in charge, and you're the guy. Just shut up and get on with it.
Yeah.
Have faith in yourself. But it's horrible because you have those stressy nights when you're like, and with my cash flow stuff, because I'm going to come back to it all the time. Cash flow. There's nothing else. That's primary one. So we would have cash flow forecasts out for 12 months ahead all the time, and you think, what's my worst case scenario on sales and what's my worst case scenario on expenses, and you plug that into the model, and you go, oh my god, in August we're going to be beyond our overdraft, sort of thing, right? How am I going to deal with that? We were doing things like, HMRC, can we postpone our VAT payment? And so you learn all the tricks, like you can do that once.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Can't go back to that second time round.
But that's a big one.
Yeah.
That was a big thing for us. And then you ring up your suppliers and go, right, I'm really sorry. I'm fine, but I'm just very tight. You'd never say I'm in trouble, because you never really think you're in trouble.
No.
It's just really tight.
It just becomes tight.
It's just very
That's
tight.
really interesting, because even as an accountant, a reformed accountant, is that I would always say you've got to have at least 13 weeks cash flow, but you were managing it on a 12-month basis forward.
Oh, you're always
rolling 12.
Always a rolling 12 months. Wow. Well, that was because always by the 12th month everything was fine. Always. So all I've got to do is get through the next 3 months, and then we're okay.
Definitely.
But in that next 3 months, something else would happen, and there'd be a new spend would come in and that sort of thing. But it was all capex, and it was good. It was all good money. It was never like stupid, wasteful money.
No.
Do you know what I mean? We're always thinking, right, we'll put this money into that, and that's going to help in this way, whatever it might have been, a piece of kit or an employee or some training for staff, or I don't know, different things.
So I'm quite intrigued to have a conversation with you around, so obviously the business started as a sort of business to consumer, direct business.
Yeah.
And you moved, I assume by the end you weren't doing any of the Meals on Wheels.
No.
And it was all reliant on schools.
School meals, yeah.
So you're dealing purely with the public sector.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of businesses out there that perhaps could see opportunity to work with government contracts, with public sector, but probably stay away from it.
Yeah.
What were some of the key lessons that you learned about having a business that was wholly reliant on the public sector?
It was a gradual process moving into it. So I'll backtrack a little bit. So we moved premises, did all that, and that was fine. We picked up a few more schools. Then we were running the schools and the Meals on Wheels concurrently, and that was very intense, labor intensive, and
We've got two businesses.
Two businesses doing the sort of similar things, but quite different. We got very lucky. The government changed the rules and made free school meals for the first 3 years of primary schools, and we were all dealing with primary schools at that point.
Okay.
So suddenly we went from like 600 to 700 meals a day, that in 8 months' time we're going to be doing 2,000.
Okay. And you had visibility because of the legislation.
And that was coming in and that sort of thing. So we had to that's when we started dealing with public sector, because suddenly now these are decent sized contracts, and you needed to sign them up for 2, 3, 5 years, and the schools were like, okay, hang on a minute now, if you're going to be giving me 250 meals a day at £2.40, this is going to add up to decent numbers. So we were, before we knew it, we were one of the biggest creditors for a school.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So we at the start, no one really knew what was going on. So they just signed up with us, and that was fine, And then the local authority started to get involved and say, "Oh no, you need this rule and that rule. This is a public contract." So we were dealing with just head teachers and business managers, or within a school at the time,
and they were just
as
their supplier.
You're great. We love working with you, Declan. This is lovely, and we were very focused. I was very focused in that business on the relationship we had was with the head teacher, and me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I wasn't involved in the day-to-day of the running of the business, sort of thing. I was very strategic and
built a relationship
and relationship. And if something happens wrong, then you just ring me and I will go and sort it out, and that would happen. So then Academy started, and a slight diversion, but then Academy started. And you started getting, instead of a head teacher, you were starting to deal with an executive team. Yeah. And they were looking for contracts for their 5 schools and 8 schools and that sort of thing. And suddenly these are running into multi-million-pound contracts. And I'm like, well, hang on, we're like dealing then, competing with divisions of Compass,
your model
and
then
Appetito, and I'm dealing with like huge,
PLT,
big listed companies. One of them was FTSE 100. And I'm like, well, there's me and my wife,
and it's
I've got a nice bunch of chefs and people over here who are really hard workers, but I mean, we were seriously out of our depth. But I never let that. I'm like, it's just words. It's just the law. And all I've got to do is work it out, Yeah. So it got really competitive for a while. And so
you were having to apply with formal tenders.
We had to do formal tenders and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. Yeah. This was rubbish. And it's really daunting. So to come back to your question, when you're very small, it's really daunting because they'll give you this massive thing of spreadsheets to fill out and documentations, and you need this policy and that policy and all that sort of thing. And you just think, oh my God, and you're worried about the words and that sort of thing. Actually, when you start to get into it, you realize there's probably about 3 or 4 key things. Yeah. That matter on that tender, and the rest of it's generic.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And it's just you've just got to be prepared to put the time in.
Yeah. To make sure you've
covered it, all that sort of stuff.
The regulation.
Yeah, they want to see all about it because we're food, obviously. It's a big deal, So they're going to come out and inspect the premises and all that sort of thing, which I was comfortable with because we were doing a really good job. I was happy with all of that sort of stuff. It was interesting in what we did in food that no one ever wanted to actually taste the food or see the food. It's just become this tick the box exercise where they say, right, we want to see your menu and you need to have this, 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 and this. So you'd say, right, our protein is going to be turkey. And a competitor would say, yeah, we're using the turkey slice. Now what they will be using would be a wafer thin piece of sandwich turkey meat, whereas we're using a slice of turkey breast. But there was no way.
Quality didn't come into
There was no way to press that home, and you weren't allowed to go and talk to them, and it was just fill in the tender documents and that sort of thing. And then these tenders started getting sent out to third parties. So suddenly the money was so big, third party companies started coming into these academies and saying, "Oh my God, this is a really big show. This is a £5 million tender. You really need us to make sure it's done right." Do you know what I mean?
Then you got a middleman,
and then you got a middleman in there, and it was painful. So the quality of the product generically across the country turned to shit for about 3 years. Because it was just money.
Right.
You know,
and then
after a few years, head teachers started to go, "Listen, I don't want that supplier anymore."
But through that 3 years, you held your ground.
We held our ground, but it was really hard.
Quality.
So, yeah,
it wasn't being recognised.
No, it wasn't, and we were losing contracts.
That was really frustrating.
It did my head in. My head in. It was really difficult. I kicked off, and no one cared. You know, there was a right mess here. Bournemouth Pool and Christchurch, a big company, Chartwells, owned by Compass, came in, made an absolute mess, like a really bad job, and then they ended up just paying off the council of Dorset councils before the three things were combined. So it was Dorset Council issued this contract. They made a mess of it when it started, and they couldn't supply, blah, blah. They ended up giving the council, "Here's £500,000, we're really sorry." And everything just carried on. And they were there for 3 years. Do you know what I mean? It was really annoying.
Was there a point in that time when you nearly gave up?
Oh, it got really, we were tight. It got really, really tight. Yeah, we had to lay off staff.
Because your volumes had gone like that. And then
the volumes went down.
Don't win a tender, it's all or nothing.
It was all cash flow again. I was just like, "Oh my God, we ran out of money here." You know, and we got really, really tight, you know. It's horrible. And I was like, I was very disappointed. And I really thought, "God, I'm in trouble here. You know, we need to, I'm not interested at this stage in my life." I would have been mid-40s. I was working really hard. But just treading water. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, hang on a minute. I'm working really hard here, and I'm not making any money. This is silly, you know. But then head teachers started to kick off and complain. And we started getting phone calls, you know, and saying, "Listen, we want to bring you in." And one of the tricks you learn in public service tenders is get involved as much as you can and talk to people who's putting the tender together. Right. And make sure they know what the issues are. Then you can say, "You need to have this particular facet in the tender documents."
So educate.
And then they go, "Oh, right. So and we do this. The reason our product is so good is because other people don't do that." Right. And then they need to adjust their systems if they're going to meet that particular requirement of the tender. And once the schools, and so I'll backtrack a little bit. The academies then stopped hiring third-party consultants to do tenders. They said they can do it themselves. They'd come and talk to us and talk to other people and that sort of thing, and say, "We're going to put it together."
Understand the market.
They want and you say, "Right." So one of the things we do is we deliver it like this. This is a really important factor for environmental considerations. You should really make that a consideration, that you must provide it in this format. And they go, "That's a really good idea." And then suddenly those big companies.
But that raises, even if you don't get a tender, that still raises the standard for all.
Raises the standard for all, but a lot of those big companies who are very system and process oriented, because they're national PLCs, this is the way we do it, we don't change it. They just couldn't. They couldn't meet this criteria.
So lobbying, educating, what was really
important. And we did that.
The tender comes out.
Yeah. You've got to be. So we were very involved. And then we started winning more contracts. You know, and then the next few years was great, because we just started winning contracts, and then they started getting renewed. You know, so we were taking on a 5-year contract, which would be 2 years with 2 years afterwards, or 3 years and 2 years afterwards, you know. And we were coming to the ends of 2 years and the 3 years, and they were just going, "This is great." And all you had to do in schools anyway was just don't fuck up. Do you know what I mean? So it's really like, once you're in, okay, it's a big drama. This is a good thing about public service contracts. Once they've awarded it, like, all you got to do is just deliver on it. Don't
do what you said.
Do what you said you're going to do. You don't have to be amazing, because for them to get out of it and redo it is a massive hassle. Particularly, like I say, it's a £2.5 million contract. For them to get out of it and then they've got to retender and blah de blah de blah. It's just a pain in the ass. So all you got to do, just don't fuck up.
Yeah.
And as long as the head teacher or the CEO of the academy isn't getting grief, like staff are coming going, oh, there's no lunch today, or this and that, and the head
Parents aren't complaining.
Parents, as long as there's no grief there, then you're fine. They just pay the bills and make the cash flow is awesome. Right. This is going to sound bad to some people who listen to this who've got businesses, but zero bad debt.
Well, it isn't, because it's public sector.
Once we moved on to the schools and we stopped the Meals on Wheels and all that sort of thing, got rid of all the nurseries, it's just schools, zero bad debt. You issue your bill and it gets paid 2 weeks later.
And it does get paid on a set date at a set time. You can
end off. Never a question, never a drama.
And was that when you were able to truly move, if we talk about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, from being
correct. That was the period. That was the time when I got really, so the last, we had a very difficult time, COVID and Ukraine and all that sort of stuff, but I was not involved. Haven't been involved in the day-to-day in the business in a long time. My wife started to get involved. Michaela, she's also Michaela, started to get involved at the end during COVID, because one of our chefs said, this is no good, I'm going to bail on that sort of thing. And we ended up going from making whatever we were doing, 2,500 meals a day, to just a few sandwiches. Some schools just wanted packed lunches. So we ended up, everyone was furloughed. And my wife and I went out and did everything and that sort of thing. She'd been doing the books for a while. And then she started getting involved a bit in the kitchen and running the kitchen and running the staff and that operational side. And she's going, I'm really enjoying this. And I said, God, I hate it. So crack on. And, and
I'll go back to my spreadsheet.
Yeah, exactly. So she would get really annoyed because I've always seen myself as good strategic. You're probably the same. You can see what has to be done. You know how to do it. So you put the plan in place. And that's the hard part, getting it all sorted out, getting it in place, putting the people in place, and then just crack on and do it. And after that, I'm sort of like, well, you don't need me now. Do you know what I mean? Just do your job. It'll be fine. So, and she really enjoyed dealing with the staff and being involved in the day-to-day and that sort of thing. And she got right, and she's very bright, my wife, much smarter than me. And so she started to put a few things in place that were brilliant, and the staff loved having her out there, and she was enjoying it, And then she got it to the point she only needed to be there a couple of days a week, and I was going out once a week and not really doing anything. I was sort of coming out and swanning about for an hour or two.
Annoying him.
Hi, exactly. Hi, everybody.
It's
exactly. Can I come in and help? No. Just don't touch anything. Don't break anything, And so I'm really good at building systems and processes, but I'm absolutely crap at doing them. So I come in, I just and they would say, listen, it works, just don't touch
it on with it.
Exactly. Which as a business owner is where you want to be, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That's the place to be.
And that's that's where you need to be if you're going to think about exit or creating a proper lifestyle business that operates without you.
Exactly. So we got to that point, and then but just come back to the public sector stuff. Once you get those contracts, don't make a mess. Just keep them going and that sort of thing. But don't be daunted by it, because it's easy money. It's really good money. It is worth the effort and the work to put on it.
Because there is a perception as well. I think this is what puts a lot of people off public sector contracts, is that the margin isn't in there compared to doing something business to business. To consumer. There's that kind of, there's not enough margin in it.
Yeah, but that's not true.
Is that because there's more volume in it, so you do get the margin?
So we're a volume show. We were doing 3,000 plus meals a day when we sold, and the money, but also once you get into that sort of volume, you get buying power as well. So it's a really simple business. We buy carrots, we cook them, we chill them, and we sell them. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a business 101.
I'm not sure making and selling 3,000 meals a day sounds like a particularly simple business.
Fundamentally, it's a simple process. We're a very simple manufacturing operation. We buy some raw materials, we do stuff to them, and then we sell it. Do you know what I mean? So it's a really simple process like that. So you've got your very traditional cost of goods sold. Very very traditional P&Ls, balance sheets, all that sort of stuff. But you also, with the volume, you get buying power. So like our suppliers loved us because we were doing 3 products a day in effect. There was a main meal, like a lasagna or a roast turkey or something like that. Would be vegetarian meal and jacket potato. And then there was a pudding, you know. So out of those 3,000 meals, sort of 1,200 would be the main, and then the remaining would be split between the others. So you get into a volume game, and they say the pudding was a yogurt on the day. Well, then we'd go to our supplier breaks and say, right, I'm going to need 3,000 yogurts twice a week.
Yeah,
you know, and
so
they
they've
go,
got
and,
drop
and they
meat as
just
well.
go, I love you, because that's like just one drop, one pick. So the guy's not walking around the warehouse. No, it's just like two trolleys of yogurts and sausages and
then you can
chicken.
turn screw
And
on
we really,
pricing
oh
with
mate,
the
we couldn't believe it. Once we started getting into the numbers, the proper numbers, we couldn't believe the prices we were getting.
Yeah.
Like we were just getting 25% off everything straight away.
Yeah.
And then when we had a product that was on the menu, we could go even further.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's the bit people probably don't understand about the public sector, is it gives you volume,
big time
drumbeat.
Yeah. And
most public sector contracts have that about them, don't they?
Yeah, and they're really reliable.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You'll normally sign up for 12 months, 24 months, you know, whatever the contract's going to be, but you know you're going to get paid. You know, you can invest comfortably, thinking
you can do that capacity growth thing because you know the contract's there,
you know the money's
stream's
there.
coming.
Yeah.
So I just now need to invest up front to be able to achieve the contract.
Yeah. And there's rules. The rules came in about 2016, 17, I think, about they have to, for bigger contracts, they've got to sort of, there was an expression, I've forgotten what it was, but they've got to divide some up into smaller pots.
Yeah.
So if you're a small business and you can deal with the whole of the Southwest or the whole of England, whatever, they have to give opportunities to smaller businesses.
Government push, isn't there? And there still is. That those contracts don't all go to the capitals of this world, the corporates, the PLCs.
And you can push for that on a contract. You can complain and go, hang on a minute, this isn't right. There's nothing in here. I've forgotten the word lots. They have to break it up into lots.
Okay.
You know, and a big company can go for every lot, but you can say, I just want that lot.
Yeah. Because
that's all I'm able to deal with. And that counts.
Okay. And any hints and tips on, I suppose that by the end, those tenders were coming to you.
Yeah.
But hints and tips on if there's a business that's not dealing with the public sector now, about where they find out about those tenders and how do they make that first step into the public sector?
That's a really good question. So I haven't been involved in it in a while, but there are websites. There's different portals. I can't think of it, but you might be able to find them, put them on the end of the podcast. In the
government portals.
There's portals that you go onto, you log on, you set up an account, and you can say, and there's so many different categories of different things. It's like in any facility, any business at all, there will be public sector contracts that you can get, and often there's small ones.
Yeah. A very quick break from this week's episode, which I hope you're enjoying. If you are enjoying, please remember, do help us and help yourself to make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing and reviewing the episode. So that's it. Short interlude from me. Let's get back to the conversation. So that's all going well. Business is going well. Post-COVID, you know, things return to normal. Your wife's in the business.
Yeah.
You're looking at your spreadsheets. You're being strategic.
I love spreadsheets.
Obviously, you've now sold the business. What happened and when was the transition between I'm loving being a business owner?
Yeah.
Straying on being an investor in terms of spending to it. But now I think we need to exit this business. Can you remember, was there a moment in time?
Yeah.
And how did that come about?
So that was through function of COVID, through COVID.
Yeah.
So we were doing we were doing all those talks through COVID on Teams, or when everyone learned to use Zoom.
Online.
Remember that was the first time everyone was using Zoom and all that sort of thing. And so the business pretty well shut down. We went from reducing to just a few schools doing packed lunches to when everything was closed and it was full lockdowns. And everyone was on furlough, and we shut the shop up and we were just at home, and everyone had a lot of time to think. You know, we were lucky with a nice house, garden, sunshine and all that sort of thing. It was time to think. And I'd always thought, you know, one day I'm going to sell the business for loads and that's it. So on that ESBI journey, you know, so when do I go, when am I going to exit and that sort of thing. But that would never crystallize. That was always one day we'll sell the business for loads and we'll be fine. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
This is my retirement plan.
This is my retirement plan. That was it. That was my retirement plan. One day I'll sell the business for loads. And then I said during COVID, it was like, it was sort of that epiphany moment of, well, when's one day?
Yeah.
And how much is loads?
Yeah.
And I hadn't really thought about those two things, you know. And so I was like, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
You know, And so I didn't really know when one day was, but I knew I wanted to be early before I was 60, you know. And so at this point, I would have been 50, early 50s, I guess, 52 or 3 or 4, whatever COVID was. And then the next question was, what's loads? Do you know what I mean?
Because when's enough?
So that was the question. I'd never considered that. You know, I didn't know what do loads mean. And then that leads you to the question, so what's enough? And then started looking stuff on the internet, and I realized that the thing you've got to think about is how much money do you want to spend every year for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
So you don't know. So I'm thinking, what I was thinking, how much is loads? 2 million, 10 million? I don't know, you know, and started like learning, reading up and finding out about that sort of thing, retirement and all this sort of stuff. And I worked out there's a fundamental thing called a 4% rule.
Yeah.
You know, and basically it means however much money you've got, you can afford to spend 4% of that, and that money should last you 30 years.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you've got £100, you can spend £4 a year, and after 30 years, you'll just about have run out based on a 4% return.
Yeah.
And inflation of about 3%.
Okay.
Just
the
kind of
inflation, formula that says I'm going to earn some money on what's the pot.
Well, that just lets you, that sort of gives you a ballpark and think, right, if you want to spend 40 grand a year for the rest of your life, you need £1 million. Just forget about the national pension and that sort of thing, you know. If you think, me and my wife, we want to live a lifestyle of 80 grand a year to spend, you need £2 million. Yeah. Right? So that was really, it was like, oh, wow.
That was the
moment. That was the moment. I'm like, shit, okay, spreadsheets. Here we go. So I started working on the spreadsheet, building the spreadsheet, and refined it, you know. So we picked our number.
Yeah.
And said, that's enough. Yeah. You know. And we were sort of halfway there anyway. And I said, right, so
was that an easy consensus to get between you, or did that need some debate?
Oh, yeah. My wife's I'm so lucky. She hates shopping. She's frugal. You know, she likes holidays and that sort of thing. But like Mickey is like, I'm the idiot as far as, you know, can I have a fancy watch, or oh, you had a car and all that sort of stuff. She just goes, you're just a fool. So the issue was I wanted the lights more than she did, you know. And she was, and I said, well, listen, I'm not going to be happy unless I do that. And also there was an ego aspect in that as well. Yeah, you want to say, I did it. Yeah. You know, I didn't want to say I've just done just enough and I'm going to be,
I'll be okay.
It'll be fine. That's what I wanted to, we've worked really hard.
Yeah.
You've spent 25 years growing your children. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You've spent 25 years doing nothing else except growing your business.
Yeah.
But growing your children and your family and staying married. And through all of this, that's a really hard thing to do. You know, that's the things I'm most proud of is my children staying married, because lots of people don't do that. And that's hard work.
A business,
and then growing a business and making that successful in that order.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So anyway, so we come to that number, and she was like, well, I'm fine here. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not fine there.
I want to be there.
We need to be up here, yeah. So we worked out the numbers, and that was good. And I said, right, so we're just going to sell the business then. And she goes, I don't want to sell the business. I really like what we're doing in the business. And I said, well, that's fine, but I don't want to be involved. I'm not interested anymore. I knew I would have to be, because big shit would fall apart, and then I'd have to come in and sort it out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she goes, well, I don't want to be involved really if your heart's not in it. And I knew my heart wasn't in it when some staff came to me with some issues.
Okay.
You know, and it was post-COVID, which was really difficult for us. Ukraine then had massive.
You went from zero to everything all over again nearly overnight.
It was
when the schools came back.
Yeah. Oh God.
They came back at 3,000 a day.
Just like that. And then the Ukraine thing, supplies were just a mess. Yeah. So we were ringing people up in the morning saying, we promised you today that's not coming. This is what's coming instead. Yeah. You know, and we were scrambling and scraping all the time to find, and it was just exhausting after COVID. So I found those years 2020 through to about 23, they sort of break me a bit. Okay. There was really
they were the most exhausting.
There was just
suffered
so much at stake, you know. Yeah. And of course, the business is much bigger at that point. Yeah, and you're starting to think about selling it and what loads is, etc.
Well, that does. I mean, I've been there, and actually, when you're going through that, I think this might be our time to go. But adds another stack of pressure on it, because nothing can interrupt.
Don't fuck up
the
now.
flow. No, this is 20 years. Don't fuck it up. Yeah. You've really got to focus.
Yeah.
On right. We need consistency.
And you don't really care that much.
Yeah. Well, your heart
You do.
starts to you do care, but your heart and your mind are starting to drift somewhere
Correct.
else.
That's a really nice
and that
way
can
to
be
put it.
really
Very
dangerous.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Very
because
dangerous.
if it doesn't,
So my staff came to me at one point with something, and I remember just normally I would be, oh my God, I'm really sorry. What can I do to help?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So we're one of the things I'm very proud of is we've always had very high staff retention.
Yeah.
People tend to come, and so if they're there in 6 weeks, they'll probably be there in 6 years. Was the expression we had.
Very transient industry.
In a very transient industry, exactly. And so people fit, and if they fit, they stay. So very strong team. And I would always support and care and make sure that was one of my most important roles, was making sure everyone was happy on a Monday morning to be getting up and coming to work. And some people came to me, and I remember thinking, I just don't care. Just sort your shit out. Just do your job. I remember walking away that afternoon and going, that's really bad.
Yeah,
this is not fair on them.
Yeah.
And you're fooling yourself if you think this is a way to run a business. So that was part of the moment.
Great self-awareness, though.
Hey,
great self-awareness.
Yeah. Oh, you
take that as a compliment.
Yeah, thank you. But you know that in your soul. You just like, don't, mate. This is not good for anybody. So then we said, right. So we need to tidy everything up. But we'd always been very, very good with the business. I've always wanted to go to bed at night not worrying about any tax implications or VAT audits or anything like that.
Yeah.
So we've been 100% above board. Everything was what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
So we just tidied stuff up a lot. Started to put operations manuals, much more detailed stuff in place, providing evidence that I'm very rarely there. Do you know what I mean? And Mickey was doing a brilliant job on the books anyway. So I got the sales to the point, or got the business to its absolute capacity where it was in the premises it was in. Like this was creaking at the walls, and I had to knock back clients. Okay. In the year before, we had schools come to us, and I said, I'm really sorry, we're full. And it was also frustrating me that, oh my God, I could take this business, I could double this business in the next.
And that's the point, is that you've either got, I'm going to go for exit, or I'm going to grow again.
Yeah.
But that's another 3-year.
Oh, easy. It would have been we would have moved premises again, would have set up a whole new kitchen. So that would have been £500,000 spend.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I was like, I didn't want to put my own money back in at that point, because I worked really hard to get it out, and I wasn't interested in having debt with a bank again, and I was like, and at the moment the business is caning it, and it's just
the right
cash,
time.
it's just a cash machine. It's just throwing off cash, and it was great. We were just hammering cash into the pension, and it was just going great. And I said, okay, this is really stupid. Here's some business that could just fly with a bit of money and people behind it.
Somebody that wants to invest in it.
If I was 40, I'd be all over it. Do you know what I mean? But I wasn't. So we made that decision. We went with one broker and didn't get any bites. We had a couple of nibbles, but didn't get any bites. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Then went back to a generic business broker.
Okay.
Yeah. We went with a specialist, but he normally dealt with much higher value businesses, so he said, I'll do this as a favor to you. But I think we were a bit too small for his skills. So I went to one of those generic Kings or Blacks, I think that's what they're called. And we chose one, we gave them $5,000, and we started getting interest, and said they wouldn't believe me when I was telling him like the business, because I'd built the business absolutely deliberately for selling.
Yeah.
So yes, what you see here, yes, it makes that much money. Yes, we take out that much money in the pensions. Yeah. And yes, I'm never here. This is everything it says.
The ideal business.
And they're like, no, everyone says that, I know. It really is, So we had 3 people start to get really interested. And that was good. That was really nice, actually. They're all coming up with enough money.
Yeah.
And so we were in the luxury position of being able to choose who I thought was going to be the best person for the business and my staff.
Okay. And I was going to say, what was the criteria? It was the person that was going to look after the business and the team.
Yeah. Once they came up with enough money.
Yeah. Once they hit them.
Once they hit
the
numbers.
Competitive process. It wasn't about turning the
No,
dial.
I didn't need to. I'm like, I've got enough money.
Who was going to be the right?
Who's going to look after my people? I've had one lad with me for 20 years
Okay.
since he was 17. He's never worked anywhere else in his life.
Yeah.
He thinks that's normal. It's just, so it's yeah. So we went with these people, a couple of young lads from the city who were getting themselves out. They were fund managers in the city. It was really funny. We met them for the first time at a pub, right?
Okay.
And these two young lads walked in who were like 30, 31, right? And they come and sit down, and I'm like, where's your dad? It was terrible. And so they were really nice young lads, and we went through due diligence, and they were like, okay. Mickey was delighted because they came back, like, these guys knew their stuff. They've now got a portfolio of 13 sort of £1 to £3 million turnover businesses.
Okay, that's their model.
That's what they're doing. It's a common thing now in America. There's loads of people like you and me who have built really simple, boring businesses, plumbing companies, like my one, school meals companies, So imagine that the plumbing company, the guy who's got 5 vans, he's got 5 plumbers working for him, he's been doing it for 25 years. He's now 55, 60. The business is probably turning over 2 million quid a year. It's probably throwing off 400 or 500 grand for him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And his kids don't want it.
No.
Okay. He's not on social media. He doesn't do Instagram, or there's no TikTok account for his plumbing business, that sort of thing. It's a brilliant business.
Yeah.
So people in America recognize this, that there's people of early Gen Xers like us, and late baby boomers who are trying to get out, and they've got these really lovely businesses that no one wants. So they're coming in and buying them and tidying them up and building a portfolio of them.
It's a cute model.
It's really clever. So that's a common thing now in the States. And these two guys are doing exactly that. They're taking all their fund manager money that they've made in the last sort of 6 years. They're bored of it. They're like, I really don't want to do spreadsheets anymore. One of them is running a Japanese hedge fund. One of them was running a African bonds fund. So they like maths geniuses. And so they're doing it. They're finding businesses just like mine, where and the most important thing for them in due diligence was the money is correct, and we don't need to be there on a day-to-day basis. And Mickey was delighted because they said, we've bought 10 at that point, and they said, these are the best books we've ever seen. They're beautiful. They said, beautiful.
They were charmers.
And Mickey was like, oh my God, And
we're selling to that?
Yeah, exactly. So we went through the whole thing, went through the due diligence process, which was good and terrifying. And then the closer you get to the end, of course. Yeah. So now, like, you're getting it. So it takes like 6 months or so, and there's all the legals and all that sort of stuff. And then you find we had a mess up. One of our managers quit.
Okay.
In the middle of the due diligence process, and of course we couldn't tell any of the staff that's what's going on. And and these guys were like, well, hang on a minute, we're not interested.
Yeah, we need that remote work.
This is the whole point of this show. So we said fine. So we changed the structure of the deal a bit to allow us to find time to get someone else and teach them, and all that was fine. But as you get closer and closer to the end, and you're in the last sort of 4 weeks, at that point, lucky enough, we chose very nice people who were honest and trustworthy. But they could have shafted me in that last 4 weeks.
You've got deal attrition at that point. You're the other side of the deal.
I'm there. I'm already spending the money. I'm trying not to spend the money in my mind. I'm trying. But all I can see is 31st of July 2024 was when the deal went through. All I could see was life after that at that point. And they could have come in and they could have taken 30% off, and I probably still would have taken it, because I was done in my mind. I was done with that business. Yeah. I was finished with that business. Yeah. But it all went through.
Yeah. And congratulations.
Thank you very much. It all went through. It was really cool. We were in Paris when the deal went through for the Olympics, and the money came through, and we were in Paris, and I said, "Come on, we're going to a restaurant." And for the first time in my life, went into a restaurant. I was going, a bottle of champagne, please.
Brilliant.
And it was cool.
That's one of the pinching moments.
It was one of those things. It was just like, and it takes ages for it to sink in, but you sort of, you've done that. Yeah,
definitely. So somebody thinking about starting their business, I think there's some great advice you've already given, but if there was 3 tips to somebody that's thinking of starting that process towards exit, what would your 3 tips be, Declan?
One, work out how much you need.
Yeah.
Okay.
When's enough enough?
Yeah. When's enough? Or make sure your books are beautiful.
Yeah.
Have everything, like 2 years worth of books that are just clean, and as much detail as possible in there for them to go through. and be a people independent systems and process operation. That's what people, that you get your high multiples when they can see the business is a standalone operation and there's no owner in there who needs it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So they're the three things: people independent system, the process operations, beautiful, clean,
Numbers,
shiny books, and know your number, and don't be prepared to change the number.
Hold firm
on the number. Yeah.
And get the business to that point.
Yeah, and it'll sell. It'll be self-evident that this is a viable business. And we were lucky because we had big growth opportunities in front of us that I was able to sort of say, I'm not doing it because I'm too tired, but if you do this, this, and this, you can double this place in a few years, which they're already doing. They've started investing already.
Brilliant, which is lovely to see.
I'm delighted.
Legacy piece.
I'm delighted, yeah.
Yeah, and the team, I assume, is still there.
So that's a very gratifying thing, Warren. Everybody is still there. Not a single person has left. And they've grown. They're up about 10% in turnover.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything about margins. I doubt very much it's quite as good as Mickey and I had it, but they'll be making good money.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
That makes
really nice. Very, very.
Because that means you feel like you've then, your team is still happy. So your clients still happy. You pick the right buyer.
Pick the right buyer and let you know that you did build a people independent business, that you owned a business. It didn't need you to run because that fundamental thing, the cash flow quadrant. That's the book that would change my mind.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Do you think? Would I ever wonder what your life would have been out like if you hadn't picked up that book?
Yeah, I know exactly what it'd be like. I'd be a corporate muppet, probably leasing cars and living in houses that I can't afford, and it just all those fundamental things that he's just taught me that fundamental lesson about money that I didn't know, my family didn't know. That it's all about assets and making things that make money for you. It's not about what Kiyosaki calls Dido. It's not about having a boat and a car and living in a fancy house. If the boat and the car are leased, and your fancy house is a mortgage you can barely afford, and that sort of thing. It's all about what's the expression I came up with? It's not how much you earn, it's how much you keep.
Okay, nice expression.
Yeah.
Definitely. So as we start to wrap up our conversation, we should talk about, life after exit. So we're 11 months into the journey, or 10, 11 months into the journey. Sat here now. So what's it been? How does it feel like post-transaction? Was there a transition period?
Yeah.
You're now spending cash. What's it feel like? Give us an insight.
It's very strange because you've been so busy for so long. It was sort of around the same time our children left. Okay. So my daughter's... she's mid-20s now. My son's 22. So they'd just gone in the preceding sort of year or two. So it was very, very massive time of transition and stress in the marriage. But now we're getting the hang of it. Yeah. Getting the hang of it. So it's okay to get up a bit later, and it's okay sometimes to watch telly at 2:00 in the afternoon if you want. The hard part is getting your head around the money. Yeah. This is going to sound like a dickhead here. It's a really nice problem to have. Yeah. But it's also because you spend so long building and saving and conserving, and you're always very value and that sort of thing. You're going on family holidays and you're like, well, we don't want to spend too much money, and what's the best value and all that sort of stuff. But now you've done all that, and you sort of forget when you get here, like that's what you've built this big pot of money for, is to spend it. Yeah. But it's very, very weird to think I can spend that and I'm going to spend more than I'm earning. Yeah. It's like, that's alien to everything you've done. Yeah. Alien to everything. So I think that's going to take a while to get used to. And I know all the financial advisors say, spend it. Spend it now while you can. You're lucky enough. You're not even 60 yet. Get out and enjoy it and that sort of thing. Go and do this and go and do that. My wife and I were looking at it, and we were looking at some fancy holiday, right, in the Maldives. And I was like, we just can't spend that on a holiday. It's like, but the money is actually inconsequential. But because you've had such a long time with value, do you know what I mean? And so when the business was really tight, we'd be on sausages and beans, and we'd go on a camping holiday and that sort of thing, and we're just used to all that sort of stuff. And there's just no way in a fit are we ever going to go out and spend £15,000 on a holiday. It's just not ridiculous. You know what I mean? And it's just intrinsic in you. It's just in here. It's in your soul. That's absurd. Do you know what I mean? So we're getting our head around all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's nice. we're slowing down. We're starting to make some plans of doing this and doing that, and that's nice. I expect what we'll probably do is do this for a couple of years, just enjoy it and that sort of thing. Then I expect we'll probably turn our hand to some sort of charity work.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I expect enjoy the moment.
Yeah, so indulge yourself, to do all that fun stuff. I have no question we'll do all that, and I reckon we'll be bored in a couple of years. And well, that was nice, but there was no real deep satisfaction in that. It's really interesting. What it turns out is the bit that's really good about generating wealth is not having the wealth. It's the journey from not having it to getting there. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And it's just like when you get there, you're like, well, this is really nice. And I'm not.
And a lot of people say when they get there, they feel quite numb.
Yeah,
it's the adrenaline and drive just goes overnight.
Yeah.
And that's been a big part of the life. And all of a sudden, what's given that drive and adrenaline?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a bit weird. It takes a while. I haven't worked it out yet. We're still working out that process.
Still got your spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Life's still being run by spreadsheet.
Yeah, we're very much so. Now they're really important because now it's all cash flow. Yeah. Everything is cash flow from now on, except,
it's the next 30 years, not next 12 months.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Brilliant. You ready to finalise our kind of conversation with some quick fire questions?
Mate, fire away.
Here we go. Favourite place to switch off and relax?
Garden.
What is the one food you couldn't live without?
Fish.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
What keeps you awake at night now?
Children.
Just still worrying about the children.
I don't think you're ever going to stop.
No, I think that's about being a parent, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
The most important trait, in your opinion, to be successful in business?
Grit. Resilience. It's that you just have to do that again and again and again. That's the no-brainer for me. Okay.
That's the thing that matters the most, how tough you are. You've just got to wear it and wear it and wear it. When things are really tough and it's absolutely shit and everyone's giving you grief, everything's going tits up, you've just got to see it through. Have faith in yourself and see it through. You've been there, That is, to my mind, you don't have to be the brightest. You don't need to be very clever at maths or anything. The numbers are really simple. But you need grit.
Yeah, just the one thing that successful people in
everyone has that. Everyone I know who's been there has been through some deep, deep shit and come out the other side.
It's not always a bed of roses.
No, God, no.
In fact, I can only just
a number of times my wife said to me, why don't you just get a job? Unemployable.
Definitely.
And if you could have dinner with one person who's either dead or alive, who would that be?
Oh, my God.
Albert Einstein.
And why?
Oh, he's a personal hero, he's a very, very smart man. In both sides of the science level, the science and physics, he could maybe explain something to me, but also he was very deeply aware socially.
Yeah. Brilliant. Fantastic. And my final question, and I think you've explained it a little bit with the three that we talked about earlier, but what's your personal definition of success, Declan?
Waking up in the morning, looking forward to the day and being happy with what you've achieved so far, I think.
Brilliant. I love that. Nice and simple. Brilliant. Declan, thank you for being an incredible guest on the Evolve to Succeed podcast.
My pleasure.
Really enjoyed that conversation.
Good on you. Thank you.
What an insightful conversation that was with Declan, from talking about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that book that fundamentally changed his view of life, money and business, through to winning public sector contracts and that recommendation that we all go out and source some of those contracts to give our business some drumbeat, to actually him working out when enough may be enough, and his whole story around exit and life after exit. So a great conversation. I hope you've at least taken away one thing for you to do, think about or implement in your life and your business from that conversation. And if you're enjoying the Evolve to Succeed podcast, then please do help us by subscribing on your favorite channel, and also take a look about how we may be able to help you start, grow or exit your business by going to evolveadvisory.co.uk. But for now, thank you for listening and see you next time.